pioneered what others said was not a market.
I want to know what role that you have played is closest to Leon Preston Robinson IV.
Wow, I didn't know I had that many names.
But what's the greatest life lesson that you would say you've learned?
What I want to say to get us started with me, I was not born like this.
Hello, my name is Apostle Darlene C. Turner, and I am a minister, author, producer, and entrepreneur. In the course of almost 6 decades, I've learned that relational skill and acumen are at the core of all success. I've spent almost 30 years of my life married, in 2 separate marriages, but I've been single, married, divorced, and widowed. So I'm every woman, honey. And I want to share with you today some of what I've learned on my journey to whole and healthy relationships. So let's begin our lesson for today. Today, we're going to discuss the equity principle. Ladies, attraction, love, connection, and chemistry happen to us all at different times with different people, and sometimes it comes unexpected, and sometimes right from the start. But however attraction and love is conceived, it's only the beginning, no matter how strong it is. Even after taking the ultimate step in marriage and pledging our undying love, the journey to satisfaction and oneness is a long road. One of the first things you must grasp is what I like to call the equity principle. Just like finding the perfect house, your dream home, the house you know was made especially for you, you commit to that house through a purchase of which you place a down payment, and it becomes yours. You love it, it's yours. There's no doubt about it being just made for you. However, although you are in a covenant with your home called a mortgage, you don't have much equity, right? So although it's yours and it's the best home you've ever had, what you dreamed of, the covenant as expressed in your legal rights to your property are limited, and you owe more on the property than what you own. Relationships, partnerships, and particularly marriage operate the same way, ladies. Marriage is the house, trust is the mortgage that has to be paid. But not monthly, however, but every single moment, we are building relational trust through our actions, reactions, responses, and our decisions. It is important that you understand this principle, that relationships are investments. This is where I need every Alice to come out of Wonderland, because there is no such thing, ladies, as being fully vested in any relationship from the beginning. No more than you are fully vested in a house that you only made a 20% down payment on. And in the case of a new home buyer program, they only make a 3% payment, right? So depending on the payment you made, what am I saying? No one can fully accept, trust, love, or honor you until they have fully met you. Much like a down payment, there is only a percentage of yourself that your spouse has even been exposed to, and vice versa. And depending on how well you know yourself, or you are walking in your own identity, they can only love, understand, and trust the parts of you that you have actually introduced to them. This is one reason why trust isn't automatic and constantly growing. As we grow, transition, and even change our position on topics and ideas, our spouses have to yield to that new growth and trust the new addition or more complicated versions of ourselves. This has nothing to do with love. This has to do with trust. Love is not earned and should never be, but trust is. Trust builds from every payment made of forgiveness, from handling fragile emotions with care, from keeping your word, making decisions that favor the whole, or sometimes making decisions that favor your partner, from making your spouse feel safe with you, knowing that their secrets, their failures, their mishaps, and their fears will not be mishandled. It's impossible to build authentic trust overnight. As a matter of fact, trust can only be birthed from authentic intimacy. You have to plant the seed of intimacy before true intimacy can be birthed. True intimacy reaches full term by going through 3 trimesters. The first trimester is the illusion. The second trimester is disillusion. And the third trimester is compassion. It starts off with only seeing and knowing the good things. That's the illusion phase, or otherwise known as the honeymoon stage. This is the stage where you don't see flaws and they're minimized. It's the relational state of pure delight where there's no awareness of weaknesses, of fears, or potential danger signs, which, of course, concerning anything and anyone is only evaluated over time. When there is no known weakness or flaw, you are in the state of illusion. After this phase wears off and the relationship begins to grow, then you get acquainted with the challenging and the concerning and the possibly even irritating qualities of your spouse or partner. Now you have entered into the inevitable second trimester of intimacy called disillusion. This is the most difficult stage of intimacy. Many relationships miscarry in this stage or even abort entirely. If you have not handled this stage properly, it can cause your relationship to end or continue with great contention, disappointment, and resentment. When handled healthily through this stage, courageous conversations, honesty, love, understanding, patience, wisdom, and mercy, you can work through the disillusion, and then compassion emerges and another payment in the trust equity is made. Trust is about knowing that one is safe with you and can always count on you to respond in the best interest of the whole in every occasion at every time. Just because your spouse loves you and even adores you, ladies, that doesn't mean that as soon as you get married, you get to now chime in on the issues related to his children from a previous marriage, or that you now have the most prominent voice in his ear. Yes, you should cling to one another and be first in one another's life, but the reality is that it will take time for your voice to carry the weight of those that have already made ample payments into your spouse's trust equity bank. It will take time for your spouse to turn over to you those things that are dearest to their heart. Don't be angry, pout, and ask why they married you if they don't trust you. It's not that they don't trust you at all. They just don't trust you enough. Healthy relationships are not built overnight, ladies. The higher a building is going to be, the deeper the foundation has to be dug. For your relationship to reach the higher heights and the deeper depths, then you have to dig into the core depths of the earth of your soul. You must face all of your insecurities, fears, failures, wounds, and issues that may be preventing you from allowing your spouse the space and time that they need to receive you into those places that they may not be ready to reveal just yet. I'm glad that I understood this principle when I married my second husband 24 years ago. He was a pastor of a mega church, owned millions of dollars worth of property. He was known all over the world, had lost his first wife to an illness, and briefly married a second wife in a marriage that only lasted 5 months and caused him great embarrassment. He also had 7 children, had been betrayed by several of his leaders over the years on multiple occasions, and then guess what? He married me. As a pastor, before all of this occurred, he did not believe in prenuptial agreements and he preached against them. However, after the course of all these events, when he asked me to marry him, he was advised to have a prenup because of all that was at stake. At first, I was highly offended, and I considered him a hypocrite because, as a member of his church for 7 years, I knew where he stood. And he also was always open when he changed his position, which, of course, he happened to do once I got on the scene. I had a choice, just like some of you. I could have chosen to be irrational, impatient, and remain offended at my own preconceived ideas of automatic trust that I thought came along with the ring on my finger, which was a great ring, by the way, while ignoring all of the factors that impacted my husband to be. Those factors like his divorce, widowhood, betrayal, that would cause my trust interest rate to grow gradually over time. Thank God I learned the principle of equity that I'm sharing with you. And so, after further thought and deliberation, I decided I loved him enough to wait for him to trust me. That trust eventually happened as I loved him back to life, took care of him during his stroke, covered him in his weakness, and made decisions that were for the good of everything and everyone that concerned him, and also loved the people he loved. Over time, my voice became and began to carry more weight as we became one during the tests and trials of life. My trust equity eventually began to accelerate. If I had not understood this principle, I would have missed out on the most amazing 21 years that I was blessed to spend with my husband. When my husband unexpectedly left this earth, he left everything he had to me and in my care because I was fully vested, and eventually he trusted me with everything, even with his life. I believe one of the reasons he came to fully trust me is because he saw I waited patiently for him to give me his trust, and I never tried to take it. Here are some steps to building equity in your partner's life. Number one, you build on the foundation of love. Love is the key ingredient. It is the key ingredient in your motivation and communication. It has to be to build an atmosphere of trust and safety. It's only through authentic love that you can endure. Number two, determine and communicate your boundaries. For example, when I married my husband, we both had children from previous marriages. So we agreed in the beginning, at least until we decided that there were some decisions that would remain with the biological parent, like spankings, for example. Number three, share your wisdom and insight on those areas that may not yet be within your trust equity range. For example, when I married my husband, there was a lot of things that I could see coming from a production management background that could benefit his ministry, operating more efficiently. However, in the beginning, he wasn't as open to my advice because I'd never been in ministry. But I did offer pieces of advice. It doesn't mean that you can't speak what you see and do it with grace, but over time, he could see the wisdom of my advice. And eventually, he began to place a lot of things in my hand. And as they say, the rest is history. Number four, have patience. Don't try to use equity now that you'll only have access to later. Be patient and wait, ladies, for your spouse to be ready to open up to you. You cannot rush the opening of anyone's heart or soul to you. It takes time, and we have no right to demand or make demands on the safety of the soul of another. So, in the meantime, make your payments. I'm talking about your trust equity payments on time, and make extra payment whenever possible, and watch your trust equity begin to grow. Okay, ladies, you know about financing a home? Well, sometimes you have what is called an upside down mortgage. That means that you owe more than the property is worth. If you or your spouse are wounded, have severe trauma or relational issues, or have suffered in abusive relationships, or even are simply not mature enough to handle the dynamics of relational acumen, you may be in an upside down equity situation. These types of situations require extreme sacrifice, patience, and love on the part of one spouse on behalf of the other. For some, it takes years. For others, decades to see the value, worth, outcome, or fruit of their equity payments. And quite honestly, many don't even last to get the fruit of their labor. It can look like it's not worth it for a long time. When there is a wounded soul involved, it will seem like nothing matters, like there is no progress being made, and you will feel like you're upside down in your efforts, and you will question, is this worth it? Well, when a mortgage is upside down, it is said that the best solution is to stay in the house for an extended period of time, to slowly make those payments, and to give yourself enough time for those payments to start bearing fruit, and to reverse the equity from upside down to right side up. Upside down relationships are not all to be discarded. It really relies heavily on, firstly, whether God called you to be together in the first place, whether both parties are willing to put in the work, and if there's a real vision that you both share or are in agreement with. I've discovered, ladies, that most marriages do not end because the couple don't love each other. Most marriages end because they have no vision, so they begin to perish. When you cannot see the purpose of your spouse in your future, your relationship is headed to an upside down state or negative equity. Vision can rekindle love, but hear me, love alone does not necessarily birth vision. No one wants to keep investing in anything that looks as though it will never yield a return. Relationships without vision eventually become dark, black holes of drudgery and resentment, with purpose screaming on the inside to be released from its prison of paralysis. The key will be discerning the relationships that just need time for the equity to be reversed versus those relationships that will continually yield no return on your investment. So I want to give you 5 questions to ask yourself. Is my relationship worth saving? Number 1, are you both committed to growth? Even though spouses or partners may be miles apart in maturity or healing, the healing process, as long as there is a commitment to grow, there is hope. This is the first indicator to determine if your relationship is worth saving. Both of you must be committed to grow individually and together. Secondly, do you genuinely respect one another? Respect is a key ingredient in establishing trust. Disrespect is a breeding ground for distrust and resentment. The next marker of a salvageable relationship is this: do you share values? Without the same values, there will be constant clashes in the direction and dynamics of the relationship as it relates particularly to the priorities that are set in your life. When partners do not possess the same priorities, they will continually be pulling in opposite directions. Fourthly, do you share a vision? We talked earlier about no vision, but also it's important to have a shared vision, a future that you are both pushing for. And then finally, are you willing to forgive one another? You can never achieve trust without forgiveness. Unforgiveness is a lack of trust magnified. If you are on the road of building trust, any unforgiveness has to be eliminated. If you can answer yes to each of these questions, you have what you need to wait it out and come out on the other side, even though for a season you may have to continue to give more than what it appears you're receiving back. And sooner or later, you will be on the other side. I trust that this class has helped you to expand and transform your thinking, which will transform your life. Don't try to change your world from the outside in. Transformation is always from the inside out. If you desire to continue to develop specifically in the areas of relationship acumen, emotional intelligence, thought management, spiritual enlightenment, or if you are in need of a coach or mentor, you can contact me on Instagram at Darlin Turner or darlinturner.com.